So we now have, again, we don't do the normal things at Diversity Project. We often don't hear intergenerational perspectives, and we thought it was very time that we did. So I would love to welcome on the stage two great people, Steve Butler and Rio Stedford, to have a discussion about how to get the best of each other at work.
You ready?
Yes.
Good.
So hello everyone. My name is Rio Stedford and I'm here with Steve Butler. And actually, funny story, we actually met earlier this year because of the Power Hour initiative. So we'll be talking to you for the next 10 minutes about managing and getting the best out of an intergenerational team. But first, we're going to play a little bit of a game. Steve, what do you know about any one of these?
It feels like we're lowering the intellectual tone of the afternoon now. So I recognise TikTok. Don't know why, but I do. Pinterest. And I've no clue over the rest.
Anybody in the room? So I'll be very honest. I only knew about a few of them. And actually, probably everything I'm wearing is probably from Shein, quite frankly. Yeah, so what I will say is that when I looked at this, I immediately realised that I wasn't as young as I thought I was. So on that note, I am actually going to move on swiftly.
So we've got the same in return now. So we've dug back into my past. Any of those?
Oh, BHS. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Right. Is that no? No, actually, I can't answer any of those.
So there's one in particular I want to highlight. Bottom row in the middle is a Spectrum ZX81, which was my first computer. Took me 15 minutes to load an Excel spreadsheet. And as you can imagine, I played more games on it than I did Excel.
I see a lot of nods in the audience as well. Okay, right. So that was actually, well, it didn't go as planned probably, but that was supposed to be a little bit of fun, just to demonstrate how the different generations learned things, their communication styles, who they were able to communicate with, skills that they had and valued, and things that they prioritized. And that is all relevant when you are managing and trying to get the best out of an intergenerational team, which we'll be now going into a bit more detail about.
So, first question. As a younger manager, as you are, what's your experience been as a younger manager?
So, I currently manage around 12 wealth planners, and they are all bar a few older than me, and being on the senior leadership team in the organisation, I collaborate with the other members who are all older than me, some by a margin. And so actually walking into that experience is very daunting. And I had to check my sort of imposter syndrome a little bit, because one of the first things I thought was, if this person's been in the industry since before I was born, why are they going to listen to me? And, you know, and also trying to grapple with the fact that, you know, in society there could be some bias or some stereotype that means that somebody's perception of my authority might be different. But I can tell you that I very quickly thought, well, I'm not going to think about that. And I've found ways to make it work. And what about you? What was your experience being a young manager?
Right, well, I've got to think hard about this. It was a long time ago. But I actually managed a team of 8 investment specialists when I was 28. And most of them were at least 10, 20, 25 years older than me. And I recall 2 things. One is I was convinced absolutely they all wanted my job. And I was terrified that they were after my job. And I kind of realized over time was, you know, they absolutely didn't want my job. You know, being a manager is hard, and if they'd wanted my job, they would have had it. but they didn't want it, so I got it. The other thing that I recall was that they all knew more than me, and you know, I was terrified that how could I manage them if they all knew more than me. But again, I realised that their job was the investment specialist, my job was the manager, and it was my job to get the best out of them rather than be the domain expert. So those are my vague recollections.
Yeah.
So, you know, thinking about yourself managing, you know, what have you learned about managing older team members?
So you touched on something there actually, and what I realised is it's not about proving myself, it's not about me at all. It's about creating an environment for my team where they can thrive. I do not micromanage. I give every member of my team the freedom to work to their strengths. And I, you know, provide some structure, of course. I give them direction, I can give them support and my diverse viewpoint, but ultimately I'm there to keep us aligned to our strategic goals and to make sure we get to where we need to get to as a team. And that approach really does help older team members as well, because they don't feel like they're being managed as a person, and it encourages them to share and collaborate. And sharing is very important, because something that older team members in particular really have is that life experience. I mean, it could be that they have navigated different investment cycles, wealth planning during, I don't know, different governments and important budgets, I mean, like the last one. And, you know, that is something that's very important when it comes to team problem solving and critical thinking. But what I would say is that experience doesn't always equal expertise. So if you are going to, and always, just seek out an older team member for answers, I would say equally go and try and find some younger people as well, because I think you might just be surprised at what they can do as well. And Steve.
Okay, so I think from my perspective, I'm not just managing older workers now. I've got younger workers that I'm kind of managing. So, yeah, I'm kind of managing up and down, and I think the two are the same. So reflecting for today and about managing intergenerational teams, not just older workers, I think there's 5 things that a manager should have in their toolkit as to how they would kind of manage an intergenerational team. Firstly, my advice would be encourage openness. Learn as much as you can about your team. Be authentic with them, be vulnerable with them, let them share with you and kind of get to know them. Again, you don't need to be the expert, you need to be the expert about them. So listen closely and adapt the way that you manage them to the way that they like to be managed. We all like to be managed in different ways. Be aware of that and manage accordingly. Again, in knowing your team, play to the strength of each person in the team. You know, go to that more experienced person or that less experienced person to kind of help you find the right answers. Number 4, and I think probably all relevant to myself now, is pay attention to your language and the communication style that you're using. When I started work, there was only one communication channel, which was the telephone. We now have multiple communication channels, and depending on whether you're introvert or extrovert, you prefer different channels. So be aware of that in your team members. And then finally, as a manager, I think be willing to learn. Be willing to learn. You don't have to be the expert. Learn from your team. So those are my 5 things to have in the toolkit. So just to kind of wrap up, Rio, you know, our title was how to get the best out of each other at work. So how would you close on how to get the best out of each other at work?
Actually, it goes to your point 5. I would say don't let any type of bias or stereotype get in the way, whether you're a manager, a leader, or a colleague. Be curious and be open to learn from absolutely everyone. And how do you think we can get the best of each other at work?
Destroying the cognitive diversity thing here. I kind of agree. You know, I think if you want to get the best out of your team, you've got to play to all those strengths, and you need to have the right skills as a manager to conduct the orchestra as it is.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. That's our 10 minutes.